What's up, Zombie Talk 123 here. I am absolutely thrilled to announce that last night the Cardinals were able to clinch the NLCS against the Milwaukee Brewers. I am a huge Cardinal fan, a diehard Cardinal fan, so for me, it was a huge deal. Now, this is the day after, I got to wake up and realize I have school tomorrow. I don't know why that glares there, but, it was tough to wake up and realize that. But it was amazing while it lasted, coming at like 11 o'clock, um, 12-6 win over the Brewers. I'm going to talk about that game, then I'm going to talk about the series. I'm going to talk about this Cardinals season, which has been absolutely incredible. This game here, though, Sean Markham, a lot of question on whether he was going to start or not. I think Ron Ronicky did make the right choice. You could argue Gallardo in this one, but you're going back home, and you're the best team in baseball at your home, the Miller Park. You're going back there. You have Sean Markham, who was one of your best pitchers this year. I know he struggled that one game, but he's been really solid all year, hoping he can redeem himself. The only question mark for me is that the fact that he's really struggled all postseason. It wasn't just one outing. It was all postseason that he's really been struggling. So that was kind of the only thing, in my opinion, that might have been an iffy choice. But really, it makes absolute sense. If you win this game, then you have your ace going against their ace. And I think the Brewers really kind of expected to win this game. You're at home. You're the best team in baseball again at Miller Park. And you're not able to win. It's definitely disappointing. Sorry about the glare again. But the Cardinals just jumped on him really early. Just absolutely jumped on him. David Freese, obviously a huge part of that, being named the series MVP. No doubt about it. You can't. It'd be interesting to see them just give the bullpen the award, because no bullpen in the history of a six-game NLCS has logged as many innings as the St. Louis Cardinals did in this NLCS. You can say Tony La Russa, give him the credit. Dave Duncan obviously earns a lot of credit. But the fact is, you can't just look at stats and make moves, because baseball, you never know what's going to happen. The real guys that deserve the credit here is the bullpen. The players itself going out there and getting the job done. They could have made Tony look really stupid if Tony would have went to the bullpen, in the second or third inning, and they would have let him score 10 runs, and you'd be sitting here saying, Edwin Jackson could have gotten a groove and would have pitched better. And then that might have cost us the series, because you never know what would happen in Game 7. In my view, I think once we got that 3-2 lead, I thought, okay, the Cardinals are probably going to win this series. I think we'd take one of two from the Brewers. I know they're at home, but I still think we can do it. We're on the verge of going to the World Series. Our guys are not going to lay down and let the Brewers crush them for 2 games and lose this great opportunity of a magical Cinderella-type year. They're not going to do that. So, they have a lot of heart this year. If you look at them, anytime they have their back against a wall, they come up big. Anytime they need to win a game, they win it. Anytime, 17 happy flights in a row. That means 17 times they've been on the road somewhere, or even St. Louis, and they have won the last game of a series before a flight, and they call it happy flight, and that's kind of their motto. Right when they, all jumped on the field when they won the NLCS, happy flight, happy flight. The Alan Craig tortoise, he has a tortoise, has been a really good luck charm, getting them into the playoffs, and then all of a sudden this rally squirrel comes up in the divisional series. It's really interesting. This team has so much heart. I think it's really, really important actually for them to have those things. If people think the squirrel's dumb, whatever. Honestly, I kind of like all those things. I think it makes the players feel kind of superstitious, and sometimes that really does help. The tortoise has been with them for a while. You get the rally squirrel. You have happy fight. Great motto. I'm just loving seeing all these guys that they traded for earlier in the year. Mark Zepchinski, 25 years old, Blue Jays growing up there. Colby Rasmus getting traded. Getting traded. And now they're in the World Series. Getting guys like Dotel, guys that really have had some really good years, but have been with a lot of losing organizations in the past. You look at Edwin Jackson. He's been in the World Series with the Rays, but he's been traded with so many teams. He finally, he goes to the Cardinals. Corey Patterson. You got to feel good for those guys. Chambers, a young guy coming up. Alan Craig worked hard all year, played absolutely fantastic this year. David Freese, finally healthy for a full year. Skip Schumacher winning a postseason game. I believe he was there in '06, but didn't play much. I'm not sure if he played at all in the. I think he was a part of the Cardinals that year though. Just just being a big part of this Cardinals team. Obviously, Albert Pujols is a walk-year, and started off slow and was 1 RBI away from the 100 RBI and 1 point away in batting average, but able to get to the World Series. I think this is going to change his mentality. Instead of going out on a season where they don't make the playoffs and have a terrible record, they go out there and they make this last month to remember. They go into the playoffs red hot and just like the team that no one thinks could beat Philly, and they do, and then the team that no one thinks should beat the Brewers, and they do. And they really do amazing. They do it in 6 games against the Brewers, and they win the first game at Miller Park, going back to Miller Park. The whole thing with the Brewers is win 1 out of 3 and get it back to Miller Park. And the game they have in Miller Park, the chance to tie the series up and send it to a Game 7 with Gallardo versus Carpenter, with Miller Park absolutely going crazy, the crowd advantage, home field advantage. And they blow this game, and, I mean, defense... their defense, this team seems so loose all year, but then these last 2 games, they've just not played good baseball. I have to give credit to the offense, so it pissed me off watching this. So, I mean, we get a huge lead in the first inning, solo home run to start it off. It just kept getting them back into it, and I think that the thing that really kind of, turned this over was the fact that Albert Pujols hit that home run, and then once that Allen Craig single, that was the biggest hit in this game, and the game was over right there. Actually, no, I think the Albert Pujols hit was the biggest hit in the game. Okay, no, there's too many to count. David Freese hit was absolutely huge. With Albert Pujols, he was safe on the play. He was called out at home. With 2 outs then, you're like, oh my God. Well, then in steps David Freese, and I'm like, he could easily hit a home run right here. The way he's been hitting, just driving a run. I mean, we got to take advantage of the situation, not only score 1. And yeah, I knew that, we were going to get our chance with Markham, but we couldn't, we needed to score right now. Turns out we scored 4 in that inning. Markham is pulled after 1 inning. And I'm pretty sure the pinch hitter that came in for him didn't even get a hit. So that's just disappointing as a Brewer fan. But then Chris Narveson, I'm not a Brewer fan, but for a Brewers fan, that'd be very disappointing. Then Chris Narveson, who might get the start in the game, he ends up, not doing any better than Markup, giving up tons of runs in the inning or 2 that he was in there for. And their bullpen did, a decent job. Cameron Lowe just was not effective. Hawkins was pretty effective. For Call's home run, I think it was a big home run to kind of answer Corey Hart's home run. But then, Weeks' home run and LaCroix's home run. It's just like, how many home runs are going to be hit in this game? It's just back and forth until the Cardinals started playing small ball and advancing runners and then getting that single. And I think that kind of separated them from the Brewers. And when they're up 9-5 or 9-4, you're feeling pretty good about your chances. They end up winning the game. I believe it was 11-6, so a 5-run lead. Going into the 8th and 9th, you're pretty sure they're going to win at this point. You're kind of just waiting for it to play out. So the players, it wouldn't, have been a lot different if it was like a 3-2 game or something. They would have, absolutely gone nuts. But the players still enjoyed it as they should. I mean, they need to party hard last night and just kind of get all their emotions out from the series. And then be ready to go and just be happy to be in the World Series. I mean, this is the most improbable season for the St. Louis Cardinals going into this year. Projected to get 3rd or 4th in the division, even behind the Cubs. A lot of ESPN experts, experts, they don't know what they're talking about. They're always saying experts, but there hasn't been too many experts that predicted the Cardinals to be in the playoffs or when they got into the playoffs, even though, they must not have followed them because they kept acting like this team has like no chance. This team has tons of chance. I mean, they get in the playoffs, they're red hot. They beat they swept the Phillies late in the season. This team can win, and they beat the Phillies and 5-game, and really that was an amazing series to get there. But what I really don't get is when you see a team like that beat the Philadelphia Phillies, have tremendous momentum, play the Brewers and go 9-9 against them, and say that in 9 out of 10 ESPN analysts I read somewhere that they said that the Brewers are going to win this series in 6 or 7 games. You got to give the Cardinals more credit. I mean, they've been playing hot, but they've been underdogs all year, and it's been working for them. They're not used to being on top, and maybe that's a good thing. So they're definitely going to be the underdog in the World Series, even though actually they're starting to give them credit now. I mean, their hitting with Rangers are actually pretty even. We have an AL type lineup, the best lineup in the NL. I was surprised about that too. So I remember a few years ago it was mainly about pitching with Wainwright, and Carpenter, just trying to scratch off some runs. And now it's like it's so easy to score for us. I mean, we have a great lineup, and I think the person that makes our lineup the persons that make our lineup are the big ones are Lance Berkman and David Freese. You look at what we had last year. Third base was a huge problem. Having an eighth place hitter at third base, like a guy like Pedro Feliz or Felipe Lopez, is a lot different than having the NLCS MVP David Freese with tons of power, the best average with runners in scoring position on our team. I mean, he's been so clutch. And then, you get Matt Holliday healthy and hitting good. And, you just got a really dangerous lineup. You add for Colin there, John Jay, great two-hitter. Albert, Berkman, Holliday. That's a power lineup when you have Berkman in the four spots. Been able to really produce so far. And when Berkman and Holliday are hitting, plus you add Freeze and Pujols, and hopefully Yachty comes up big. The one only position that really hasn't produced much is a whole second base position. Excuse me. Nick Punto has looked pretty lost at the plate recently. Swinging and missing like 89-mile-an-hour fastballs right down the middle. I think that Terry will get his share of starts. I mean, I like Punto. He actually came pretty big towards the end of the year and the start of the Philly series, but just not doing too great lately. But the Cardinals, an amazing season, making those mid-season trades. I had a Kobe Raz's video that I don't want to take down, but my views on the trade, even after a week after the trade, were very different than first reactions. Because my first reactions, I expected them to get more from him. I expected them to get a lot of young talent. I expect them to get at least one top prospect, maybe like one top prospect, one decent prospect, and then someone who would help us now. But you have to tip your cap for John Mozeliak. We would not be anywhere close to where we are without this new bullpen and Edwin Jackson. And then, we haven't even looked at the draft picks and the things that we've received. So, to me, the trade is already worth it. Getting to the World Series, this has turned, for very easy season to forget into one of the best seasons to remember. I mean, you really do want to forget the season in the middle of the year. You want to forget it. We're 5 games out, 500. We're 10.5 back, one in the last month. Everything's looking bad for us. It's so negative. And then all of a sudden, they just win and win and win. And everything turns around. They barely beat the Braves, who I thought, I was looking at Central most of the time, and no one was. I mean, some people were thinking about the wild card when the Brewers really started pulling away with the division, but the wild card would just seem so hard to get with the Braves. You know what I mean? So much young, great talent. Their bullpen, so many stories on how good their bullpen was, and they didn't even make the playoffs. That's too bad. I mean, their bullpen was so effective this year, but towards the end of the year, not effective. So, not able to get the job done. But, I mean, this Cardinal team, I really have to give credit to them. All these interviews are saying, this is the best group of guys I've ever worked with, and I have to give credit for John Mozeliak. He really thought that team chemistry was a big part, and so many people criticize him for, not signing this guy and not trading for this guy and getting these guys that didn't put up great numbers or had this and that, but they really did put some good heart in the Cardinals. But, some guys that really added a great chemistry to the team and has had very positive. Rafael Furcal has been really positive to the team. Dotel's been positive on the team. Berkman's been positive to the team. All these guys are good. I think Edwin Jackson and Corey Patterson, even though Patterson hasn't done that much stats-wise, I think all of those guys have just loosened up the clubhouse and added kind of some flavor to the clubhouse, really. I think that it's really important making those moves. A happy flight, I love that. Just an amazing season for the Cardinals. And to get to the World Series, I can't even explain it. Getting to the World Series 3, they were in 04, 06. So 3 times in the last 8 years. That's averaging like every, 2.5 years you're going to go to the World Series. That doesn't happen. I was not expecting to see them go to the World Series for a long time. It's just something that you don't expect, and now that it's happening, it's hard to really think about it. But I will realize eventually, wow, that was a really special moment as a Cardinal fan. Following them all these years, not seeing a postseason win since 06, and I was pretty young in 06. So really really remembering that well a postseason win, because I don't really remember them winning World Series that much. I was a fan, but I was a really big fan, actually. I followed all the postseason games, and that one World Series game where they won it all, I didn't follow it as much. I don't know why. I had a Haunted Woods or something going on, and I just didn't follow it much. And I wish I could have, because, it's a historic moment, obviously. But, this year, I don't expect the Cardinals to win. I'm going to have low expectations. If they do, it will be absolutely surreal, and it would be one of the best moments of my life for sure. Actually, at least as a baseball fan, the best as a baseball fan. This year has been absolutely fantastic. It would, I said earlier, it'd take a miracle for them to get in the playoffs. It has. If you get in the playoffs, it's not a waste of season. If you get in the World Series, it's definitely not. Great for the city of St. Louis organization and the team. Thanks for watching. Let me talk 1, 2, 3.